Well, indeed. Facebook, here we come. So, uh, a real comment now to YouTube. It's very frustrating. You put all these videos up, and when it fails every time, it's a bit tough. But I know people will be joining on in a minute. I just need to show you the horse-drawn cart coming around town. Hi, Janice. Can't get much more Western than that. But yeah, it's very sorry to ask everyone to come over, AMB, but um, maybe Facebook's going to end up being the winner for all these tours. So there you go, Martine. But I'll just wait a minute or two for people to join on once again, because there's a lot I want to share with you here, and it's really fascinating. I have no idea. I mean, and hi, Anne. So many people send advice, but I mean, this buffering is a real challenge. YouTube. Hi, Sarah. YouTube is the Diane. Terry. So everyone, yeah, I know everyone will be coming here. So that's lovely, Ruth, and I appreciate that. So hey, big hugs to you. But when you're the biggest broadcaster in the world and it doesn't work. So anyway, all that noted. Oh, Merle, hi, welcome back. So, okay, again, Robert, that's right. So, the valley I'm in is called Jackson Hole, and it's important to kind of understand the difference. So, there's Jackson Hole is the whole valley. The Tetons are about 40 miles, 63 kilometers long. It's a huge, huge band of mountains. They are some of the youngest mountains in the whole Rocky chain. So, it's all part of the Rockies, but the Rockies, of course, start way up in the Northwest Territories and all the way down into New Mexico, right? So it's a huge system. But of course, I've come out of a few days in the super volcano of Yellowstone, which, needless to say, is spectacular. And then we descend down through this valley. Roughly 3% of the whole territory in this territory here in the Teton territory is actually publicly traded land. Most of it's protected. The mountains are just, I mean, yesterday was fantastic. Some of you have seen the pictures that I put up on this Facebook page. So it's lovely to have everyone here. So I did this morning hike up Snow King Mountain. I'll show that to you in a minute. But I do want to take you around. So what I feel like everyone's here, I want to talk about the fact that, first of all, we are in Indigenous territory here. Shoshone, the Blackfeet, made it all the way down here. Gros Ventre. So a whole series of communities would have come through here and used this principally as very distinctly a hunting area. But the town of Jackson today is a very wealthy town. That's not necessarily reflected in household income because you have so many young people who come work here. Very similar vibe to Banff in some ways. But you know what? Last time I checked it, the average house price here was $3.5 million. So we're in the state of Wyoming, the least populated state in the United States. And we're in the land of the Cheneys up at Teton Village. So here we are in Jackson. Then Teton is the great big ski area, which is fabulous. But that's where the Cheney family is. Harrison there, Luke, not Luke Skywalker, the other guy, Han Solo, he lives here. So does Kanye West, who I don't know a lot about, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of. But there's a lot of famous buildings here. But the town is established in 1914. Although people were here a lot earlier. And in fact, a guy named Moran, and there's actually Moran's Peak up there, took photos in the 1860s or something of the valley. And that's what really contributed to the protection that led to the protection first of Yellowstone and the establishment of Grand Teton National Park. The one subject before we carry on that I want to talk about is, of course, widely considered a very conservative state here. This Wyoming, are you ready for this, particularly to the women on board? This particular state was the first jurisdiction on planet Earth where women achieved full suffrage, including women of color, 1869. Now it was floated and debated through territories. This was it was still part of the Dakota Territory. In 1869, they, yeah, no kidding, I agree, Terry. Still, I don't care for them, and so women achieved suffrage in 1869. By 1870, even women of color in Cheyenne were voting. So, I mean, this is pretty powerful bit of history, an important sense of what that frontier equality actually looked like. And in 1920, their town council here, or town whatever committee, was all female. So, if people feel like they're in the heart and soul of conservative whatever, well, there's a lot more to it here. So, I mean, that's pretty remarkable. So, it's a point I feel like repeating. It's obviously a tourist town where everyone conspires to be fairly Western or very Western. Down the way is the National Elk Preserve. So, those are all the elk antlers and a couple of moose antlers. Remember, antlers fall off, so you don't have to kill the animals in order to get them. That's pretty important as well. So, you've got the 4 points in here. I am feeling just a few little raindrops. It's not going to affect our visit today. And on top of the fact that this is considered, of course, one of the more conservative states now, look at the lovely pride flags around and the inclusive washrooms. This is not going to be a political talk, but I just think it's important to acknowledge that these kind of communities here out in the West don't have to be caught into really old views of gender and identity and so forth. And I think that's pretty important. So there it is, celebrate pride. And I think it's a really lovely thing to do, of course. Now, obviously, as a cultural environment, this is extremely outdoorsy, as you can imagine. I went up hiking a mountain today, which is great fun. And I have to go and tell you about the Cowboy Bar, but I don't want to just focus on that. Let's come over now. This has become an arts center, and it's a matter of personal taste, whether it's exactly the kind of art one loves or not, but a lot of copper art. We came down yesterday from Yellowstone through the Tetons, and they were looking fantastic. I need to be at the top of the mountain to really show you the Tetons in style. There was a farmer's market out today. This ski area back here, there is Snow King. So I hiked up there yesterday. I did put photos up yesterday, actually, my group at one of the overlooks, the Moran overlook. So that was it. It's a nice little walk. You'll see there's still some patches of snow up there as well, which is pretty neat to see. Sorry, I'm just trying to give you a better zoom, but it's that now. Oh, that's right. I apologize. I'm on Facebook, so I don't think I can do a zoom up here. Hi, Carmen. Bienvenidos. Aquí. Esa es la montaña de Snow King, donde esquían. So there is a gondola that goes up there. So I walked up, zigzagged up. It's about 40 minutes or so. If you're used to the altitude, I will, Martin. And then you have these hills here. What's happening up behind these hills is the Snake River is coming down. That's the longest tributary of the Columbia River. It's nearly 1,000 miles. So it's a huge tributary. It's a beautiful river, and it's famous for rafting and kayaking and all sorts of things. And it winds its way into the Columbia, and then the Columbia flows north, and then it eventually, of course, makes its way around to Astoria, the border between Washington and Oregon State as it comes out. It's the largest discharge into the west coast of this continent. Look at this, they voyageur, because this is fur trade country down through here. So that is some pretty fantastic art, if that's your sort of thing. There they are paddling through the rapids. Obviously, this I think is a fabulous piece of art right here. Look at these two, I mean, clearly indigenous people climbing up a rock. You can actually climb up. Grand Teton is 13,775 feet tall. And what do you say when your child goes off to university? Well, you say bison. And of course, this is land of the bison. In fact, so much so that there is a bison on the flag of Wyoming. So that's pretty fantastic to see. And then the grizzly here. Now, the grizzly catching a salmon. I suppose we're on the Pacific Slope. Yesterday, coming down through Yellowstone, I crossed the Continental Divide 3 times. But I want to come over and hang out with a guy here, a little bit of a controversial figure, but I'd say overall a pretty smart person to sit and have a chat with every now and then. Hi, Allison. Nice to see you here. So if I wanted to sit and have a chat with this fellow here, you might recognize him. Samuel Clements, of course, Mark Twain. I've been to his house a few times in Hartford, Connecticut. And as this man once said to us, travel is fatal to prejudice. That seems pretty reasonable. He was clearly a controversial figure. He was very, very witty, and do you know he actually lost one of his daughters to a seizure in the bathtub, which is an interesting thing. I've had some experience with epilepsy, and it's always something I've thought a little bit about. This is all public art. Now you have to spend a fortune if you're going to get into public art around here. Um, so you'll have to collect a lot of wood and sell that. But all through town, it is a very artistic town, and it's a very interesting. So I'm up at about 6,300 feet, or about 2,000 meters here in this valley. So it is a big plateau. It gets very cold in the winter. Same mustache as your dad. Is that right? That's fantastic. So let's come out now. I am feeling just a few raindrops. I've been very lucky over the years coming here, where I really haven't had much rain at all. But this is a weekend. Obviously, it's a Saturday here. Last night I arrived in not too late. Oh, let's show you this. People coming up the road on horseback. So, this is the Wild West. Down at the far side there, just where that hill is in the back, you have the National Elk Preserve or Refuge and big elk population. Now, given that 97% of the land around here is protected, you can imagine there is a ton of wilderness here. So it is fun. So there's the signs. The valley is Jackson Hole and the town is Jackson. Um, there are so many different sculptures all the way around. Now here, of course, you have this image, which is very much an image of Wyoming, of the rider. It's of course wild horse, but that is actually a war memorial in the middle of the square here. And really, it's just a nice little grid pattern. About 10,000 people living here, and we're just over on the east side from the border with Idaho. So, and last year, Jackson Lake and Coulter Bay, which is one of the main places you stop up in the Tetons, was really drained almost out because there had been a very distinct drought in that area. And this year it was full again. Of course, there's been a lot of snow on my trip, a lot more than we have up in the Canadian Rockies. So I've driven south to get cooler weather. Now there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the $1 million Cowboy Bar. This is one of the most famous bars, certainly in the United States. You sit up there on a saddle. It is unreservedly a party kind of pickup place. But in the on the bar, there are silver dollars. Whether there's a million of them, who knows? But it's been owned in several incarnations. Look at the raft just about to come by. These are some of the activities in the area, of course. But this bar is, well, yesterday I stuck my head in because I showed my group where I was, and then I left. So it's not that I haven't gone for a drink there, but it's not a place I hang out. But it is kind of fun, of course, and you can do your Western dancing in there. It played a big role during Prohibition. This was a late state to get into banning alcohol, and of course there was probably, because it was so far from law enforcement, it kept serving right through Prohibition. So it's had lots of different owners. But it is famous, and it is just crazy, crazy busy. I mean, it is a license to print money, so it's a bit of a funny place. Did you? Yeah, the saddles are fun in Fort Worth. Yeah, that's right. I know about those ones up in Fort Worth as well. Not that I should, but here is, by the way, um, John Coulter, and they say the first white man in Wyoming. Um, so hey, Mary Beth. But yeah, Mary Beth has been here with me previously on a trip. Much cooler than it often is this time of year. Of course, this high altitude here, it gets pretty cold. In the wintertime, you want to learn to two-step. I'm happy to teach you how to two-step because, of course, Calgary Stampede, which is starting soon, that's a pretty big deal as well. So you've got the art galleries all around. You actually have a little bit of the older architecture through here. People started settling here in the 1890s, but it's incorporated in 1914 as a community. So it's young and vibrant and fun and reasonably mixed. And when I say reasonably mixed, I mean that because in towns like this, and you can name the places in the States, this one, Acadia, a lot of P-Town, a lot of those places that have this intense, busy summer season, they get lots of workers, particularly from Eastern Europe, who are given 4-month visas. It's nice to see them too. And last night, the manager who was my group was at dinner. It was a really lovely Mexican restaurant, but he was from Lima, Peru, so you imagine we had a lot to catch up on. So there is the ski area up top. One of my fun stories. So every single time I have been to Jackson as an adult, I have walked up that hill. Every single time. It's a rule I have to myself. Let's just show you a little bit here of the gathering in the early days. So The structure became known as the clubhouse and originally housed the gun club. So there's the old Jackson Mercantile Company. Um, I did mention I'll take you dancing in Mexico. It wouldn't be two-step, but I'd totally take you dancing down there. But of course here everything is subtle. But the boom that this place is having, as is so true of so many um, mountain communities, sorry, is very popular. Look, check out these really cool. So they've got all these old chairlifts, and that's because they put in a gondola, sort of a sightseeing gondola up the top. Do you know they have a race every year from here in the town square up to the top of that mountain? And I think the record is 23 minutes. That's pretty good. But one time I was up top there, and I walked up to the other point, and I was walking along. Hi, Lucy. I was walking along, and in amongst the trees was a beautiful female ptarmigan. So I walked along with her for a little while, but then her boyfriend came out, and he jumped out in the middle of the field in front of me, or in the middle of the path, and a bit like a turkey, put his fanned out his feathers and said, "You stay away from my girl." And so I said, "Yes, sir." And so that's as close as I got there. There's a fun shot, altitude, and this is altitude, right? Say about 63, 6,400 feet, and then you get up on the mountain, and it's about 70, I think it's 78 at the highest point. That is pretty high. Now that isn't unbearable, but I tell you what, if you're not used to altitude, you will feel it up here. Gentleman in front of me's walking along with flip flops. I have my sandals on today. Pretty cool. Oh, I do have to show. This is kind of a funny thing. Oh, that's Mick Jagger right there, rocking it out. So it is a little windy right here. So I will try and get into a better area. But you do feel the wealth of this community. It's oh, I'm sorry, it's going on and off. Oh, Sayuri, is Sayuri here? I am so happy to have you here, Sayuri. Hello to the Wild West, my friend. Sayuri is our dear friend from Bahia in Brazil, and she travels all over the world. Has just come back from Senegal, which is a fabulous thing. And you see, Sayuri, if you were here with me, you could be running up and down the mountains like this, eh? So it's a fun thing to be doing all through here. But say it's much, much cooler spring. There's a great big snowpack, so that's great news. But just to give you a sense, we're coming down here to Pearl Street. A lot of the hotels are down here, but I have to show you some of the fun and sometimes silly public art that one has all over through here. Salut, bienvenue. So again, it's become known as an artistic community. Of course, it is still that Wild West feel, but a bit contrived, I must admit. I'd say of everyone in the cowboy bar wearing their boots and their hats, not a single one of them actually works as a cowboy. But I really like this particular mural right here. This is "We are in bear country. Those are grizzlies. Be alert, be aware, carry bear spray, keep your distance, make noise, do not feed, store all food, travel in groups." See, these are the rules we talk about all the time. So, but these hotels down around here in this really, really fun small community, see about 10,000 people, and it's really kind of one sort of laid out area, and then down the main road towards Idaho, you have some more services. But it's an easy grid. But if you're looking for a hotel room tonight, if you find one, it'll probably be $400 for kind of a motel style. And you always know Western architecture when you see these fun. Sorry, thank you. Thanks. These fun false facades that you have on the front of them, because of course when you were building temporary buildings, you just built the simplest structure you could and then added on to it, or made the front look appealing, and then over time they stayed. There's the Admiral Motel. But if you have good eyes, I don't know how well it shows, up in the distance you will see snowy mountain peaks up in the distance there. So yeah, the snow is pretty close by. My group's staying about 3 blocks down. Yep. I have stayed here with this company many times, but I've also been here with a British company in the past. So I have stayed here on and off for years. I always look forward to coming here, but it is a place that I come, and I was up about 6 this morning, went into the gym for a while. I always like to kind of work out and enjoy the altitude. I was hoping this afternoon there's an outdoor climbing wall out by the ski hill, and I was hoping to go in. And Oscar, hola, bienvenidos amigo. I was hoping to go do that, but now it looks like it's going to rain. So uh, rock climbing and rain do not go together. Yeah, everyone, many of you will know who Oscar is. Oscar has Casa Crespo in Oaxaca and Mexico. I'll be back down there, of course, in January. That's one of our special invite-only trips. You know what, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to get up to the ski hill, but if it really starts pouring rain, I might have to pull the plug on things here, because I'm certainly not dressed for it all of a sudden. But you do have, there's Backroads. I don't know if you know that company, but they cycle along and support people as they go. And then there's their civic center. So great, great, great infrastructure. Huge fishing destination too, as you can imagine. But of course, we're kind of a mix. It's true, John, I haven't brought you all rock climbing. So hard to get reception. I might do a video one day. But they got the art center here, the civic center. Oh, and there's someone playing the piano out there. How lovely is that? What a treat to see. Um, yeah, this is just rain. It's not cold enough to be snow. But my group are out on a float trip right now, so I hope they're not getting too wet. There are some gorgeous lilacs that are all just in bloom. The flowers were intense right down through Yellowstone, and they're lovely and intense around here too at the moment. They also have a rodeo down here. Um, I know I've been promising rock climbing, but then the platform where we did everything failed, and then I'm living with the frustrations of streaming. But oh well. Let me just go. I'll go another block. But if I start to get too wet, because I'm in jeans and sandals, I just don't want to get too wet. It wasn't actually meant to rain today. It was going to be overcast this time of day. Look at the flowers all coming out through here, and it's very, very international, as so many of these communities are, because of course you have a small, intense population that comes in the tourist season, and then in the winter, this is a major ski destination. Um, so Teton Village, or Teton as a ski resort, is a massive, extremely expensive, but high-end ski resort. This little Snow King up here, it's funny. Someone in my group hiked up with me this morning, and they were not a skier, and they're saying, "Oh, it seems so steep," but actually, these are quite easy runs. If you are a skier, look at all the flowers coming out. I wish you could smell all this. Um, well, they at least my phone and gimbal are waterproof, but it's a lovely image there. And the nice patches of snow still up on the side. But yeah, cool spring. We'll see. I'll be back here in 2 weeks. Um, and it'll be fun. Maybe try and do a different video. Oh, there's a pussycat running across the street. Keep going. Little pussycat and log cabins, of course, as one would expect. Magpies, look at them. Woohoo! Woo! Magpie and blackbird having a distinct disagreement. Now, the rodeo grounds are just down across by about one block. But this is where, if you wanted to spend a bit of money, come by one of these houses. It is a lovely town. And it's intensely, it's young because of all the sporting things, the skiing in the winter, and then all the animal sightseeing and rafting and all that sort of thing in the summer. But it is also extremely expensive kind of a community. Yeah, smell vision would be wonderful. There's a lodge, for example, up on the hill up there, and they've actually built a tunnel into the hill to go up to it. Right? That kind of infrastructure does not come cheap, as I'm sure you're all very aware. So I've just been coming down Cache Street, Cache. That is always indicative of the French fur trade experience. A cache is where you would leave behind supplies because you had to return whatever route you come down as winter settled in. Winter, it was tough up here. They get super cold, high altitude, even though we're a long way south of where I live. But nice, wide, easy streets. And of course, there's the license plate of Wyoming, that same symbol. I say bull rider, was not actually a bull, right? It's a wild horse. And that's not a sport I personally find terribly appealing. But I guess, teach their own. Now, I did mention earlier today, so Harrison Ford has a place around here, Kanye West, but the Cheneys are endemic to this area. Very important. Look at this. Now, these classic log cabins, the only mistake you make with a log cabin is if you don't make your windows big enough. In the winter, it can get awfully dark. Now, we're way further south here. Like it's nearly 2 days to drive home up north. So the days aren't as long, but it means the winter days aren't as short. That's always the trade-off. But there is just some gorgeous architecture. And very interesting. I don't know the origins next street. It's King Street. But this was laid out long after American independence, so I expect it would be someone with that surname would be the origin, nothing to do with monarchy. And there's some fancy new architecture around here. But the flowers and the life are just beautiful. Now, Snow King, because they have a very good financial situation, Snow King has got all sorts of fun things going on. They have outdoor luge tracks, zip lining, of course, sightseeing gondola, which is just going to start coming into view now, straight in front of us. And that is still genuinely a patch of snow, quite low down there. I bet you that's where they made a ton of snow this winter. So that's a fun thing to see. And public parks, of course, it is Saturday. So if you want to come here with me the next time, we'll hike up together and we start straight up onto the gondola, zigzag up. There is actually a pretty gentle route, but if you come from sea level, boy, oh boy, you'll know you're high. Now, this is nothing compared to being up in Cusco or in Bolivia, but it's high, right? And they do say that it takes about every 5,000 feet, right? Every 1,700 meters, your body has to readjust. And so, I don't exaggerate any of it, but when people come on these trips, a group of 30, 2 or 3 will be kind of feeling the altitude. That's kind of the vibe of the whole thing. So, look at the flowers out here. Isn't that gorgeous right now? It is just beautiful. So, once again, I was hoping to have a nice, clear YouTube video, but certainly I haven't. And I know lots of people, I do appreciate people emailing me with different bits of advice, but I really think it's the streaming of the camera. But this seems to have held on very, very well. So I'm just going to make my way just up to the base of the ski hill. And say today I hiked up with someone from my group, and then some of my group actually took the gondola up. So that's why I just did a small TikTok when I was up top, rather than giving a tour or doing a video. But you will see people hiking all along up there. So if you live here, that would obviously be your. So it's not as far as Sulphur Mountain, say, as in Banff, but it's a great way to just get out and get a bit of exercise. But if you know anything about, hi Sharon, if you know anything about the ski industry, when you see the kind of infrastructure that a small mountain like this has, it gives you a sense of how much money obviously flows through a place like this. I am coming up to a playground. I never like to put the camera in front of kids. Obviously, check this out. So they've got loads of these kind of outdoor experiences. Well, Sharon, thanks for finding me. I tried once again to be using YouTube, and once again it started perfect and strong and then cut out. So that's always a little disappointing. So, and it's interesting because I get messages from a lot of other virtual guides asking how mine are so clear. So it goes to show that it's just that, of course, I travel more than the average, and so I'm in so many different places. Yeah, it's no kidding. So there's a little climbing wall. So if it's not too wet, I'm going to go and hang off that a little bit and have some fun. And then I might even go for something really fun like a siesta. And my group are off for a float trip, and then they will come back, and we're going to have a little bit of a get together. So thank you for coming and hanging out in Jackson, Wyoming with me. Please do hit his likes. Yeah, no, Margaret doesn't like me either, apparently. But please do hit the likes. Well, what I don't have on this one that I know of is the Zoom. So it's, there's all sorts of different things I can kind of do. But I do want to thank you for coming and hanging out with me and making time. I hope everyone is healthy and happy. And I will see you Um, Back home, I fly home tomorrow, so I will be in. Ooh, maybe I should do a chit chat tomorrow. I'm going to be in Denver Airport for 7 hours. Maybe we should do something fun like that. So we'll see. You're welcome, Cindy. So big hugs, everyone. Here I am up in Jackson, Wyoming. Thanks for sending the stars. I still don't know how they work, but I really appreciate it. And I'll see if I can transfer some of this over to YouTube because it's easier to get there. Thanks, Laura. Listen, lots of love to all of you. Big hugs all around. And I will see you. Yeah, go home to my kid who just turned 17. He's working again today. The new shop he's working at just opened. All right. Lots of love here. I'll show you where I'm going to go play like a young person right there. So, all right, everyone. We will see you very soon. Take care. Lots of love. And one last thing, because it cuts out so quickly, I have to tell you about the time that I was out partying on top of that mountain. So, I don't know if you know a lot about Mormon culture, but sometimes people kind of rebel because we're right here. Oh, yeah, honest. If you put a dot into Salt Lake City and put a rope on it for about 400 miles, we're in the loop of Mormon culture. Well, I met some people who were not practicing anymore, and therefore they